The room froze when he walked into the studio that morning. Cameras were already rolling, lights were blazing, and she stood there holding her script, hands trembling just enough that only someone who truly knew fear would notice. He'd cornered her against the sound booth wall minutes earlier, whispering in that low, poisonous voice he used when no one else was around, telling her she'd never make it in this industry because he would personally make sure she didn't. And now, as she tried to breathe, he smiled, that slick, confident smile, the one men wear when they think they own the room. Everyone saw him as a successful producer in a sharp gray suit, but she knew the truth. He wasn't there to help her rise. He was there to break her. And the worst part, for a little while, he did. Emily Hart had worked her whole life for this chance. She wasn't flashy. She wasn't born into connections or money. She stocked shelves in a grocery store during her 20s, took community college acting classes in her 30s, and spent years going to auditions where people barely lifted their eyes from their phones long enough to say, "Next." But she kept showing up. She always kept showing up. Her mom used to tell her, "The world might not notice your spark at first, but it will." Emily held on to that. Even after her mom passed last winter, even after loneliness started creeping into her apartment like a cold draft she couldn't shut out. Acting wasn't just a dream for her. It was her connection to everything she'd ever loved. Her way of still talking to her mom, her way of staying alive. So when the studio finally called her back for a recurring role, she cried so hard she had to pull over the car. It felt like life was finally saying, "Okay, kid, it's your turn." But she didn't know that one man on that set had already decided he'd be the one to take that turn away from her. His name was Ryan Carter, and he liked power the way some people like oxygen. And he saw Emily's gentle heart as something he could crush just for sport. The studio was a busy place, people running with clipboards, makeup brushes tapping against cheeks, someone always yelling for sound levels. And in the middle of it, Emily moved quietly, politely, the way people who've had a lifetime of being overlooked tend to move. Most treated her nicely. Some barely noticed her. And Ryan? Ryan noticed everything. He'd watch her from across the room, that calculating look like he was deciding which button to push next. And she could feel it. Every time she tried to breathe, every time she rehearsed a line. She wasn't just fighting stage fright. She was fighting a man who had already chosen her as his target. The kind of man who jokes too loudly, touches too casually, and hides his cruelty behind a charming laugh everyone else mistakes for charisma. It started small. A comment slipped under his breath. A script change meant to sabotage her scene. A joking remark in front of the cast about how she looked too nervous to be on camera. And she swallowed it, because that's what people like her were trained to do their whole lives. But on the third week, he crossed a line. He pulled her aside behind the set wall, close enough that she could smell the cologne that always made her stomach tighten, and he whispered, "You're replaceable. Emily, I can end your career before it starts." One call. She froze, eyes watering. He smirked and straightened his suit jacket, confident he'd broken her. Then he walked away, and something inside her cracked. Not just fear, but humiliation. The kind that sticks to your ribcage like glue. That afternoon, he accidentally deleted her recorded scene. Told the director she wasn't performing well, tried to bury her before she got a chance to shine. And she went home shattered, sitting on her couch long after the sun went down, whispering into the dark. Maybe he's right. But the universe has a strange way of timing things. Life listens even when we think it's silent. And karma? Karma is patient. The very next morning, while Emily was walking into the studio, wiping tears before anyone could see, a black SUV pulled into the lot. A tall man in a perfectly pressed navy suit stepped out. Sharp shoes, clean-cut hair. The kind of presence that makes the air shift a little. People looked up immediately. He walked with purpose straight into the building, straight toward the chaos, straight toward Ryan Carter, who was, for once, not smiling. The man's name was David Lawson, corporate legal investigator for the parent company that owned the studio, sent directly from headquarters. Turns out Emily wasn't the first person Ryan had tried to destroy. She was just the last straw. Someone, maybe a makeup artist, maybe a sound tech, maybe one of the extras who had seen too much, sent an anonymous complaint. And corporate didn't send emails for something like that. They sent lawyers in suits. David stepped into the room like a quiet storm, calm, controlled. But with eyes so focused, it felt like he could see through walls. He didn't yell. He didn't posture. He simply said Ryan's name in a tone so steady the entire set fell silent. Ryan tried to laugh it off, tried to pull his charm from his pocket like he always did, but it didn't work this time. Not on someone who had a folder of evidence in his hand. "We need to talk," David said, and the way he said it made every person in that room feel the shift, like the power Ryan had been abusing was already slipping out of his hands. The conversation wasn't long. It didn't need to be, because karma doesn't need drama. It needs truth. And the truth was written in every statement, every complaint, every whispered story, finally given light. When the doors opened again, Ryan didn't come out confident. He came out pale, sweating, finished. Security walked him off the set, his expensive suit suddenly looking small on him. And the room exhaled. Emily stood there trembling, not from fear but from relief that hit so hard it almost knocked her over. David walked up to her afterward, kinder now, softer. "You're safe," he said, and she believed him. That's the thing about real justice. It doesn't need applause. It just arrives quietly wearing a suit. Word spread fast. The director apologized. The cast supported her. And Emily? She shot her scene that day with a steadiness she'd never felt before, like something inside her had finally stood up straight. Months later, her role expanded. Viewers loved her. She started receiving interviews, invitations, opportunities she once only dreamed about. And every time someone asked how she kept going, she smiled and said, "Because some people tried to break me." But life had other plans. She didn't gloat. Didn't celebrate his downfall. She didn't need to. Walking into her purpose was victory enough. And maybe that's the moral here. People who try to destroy others always forget one thing. The universe has a way of circling back. Cruelty is loud, but karma is precise. And when it arrives, it doesn't knock. It walks in wearing a suit, holding truth like a mirror. Emily learned that the hard way, but she also learned this. No one can end your story except you. And sometimes the very person who tried to bury you ends up planting you instead, because you rise taller than they ever imagined.